That said, just to jump around, you said the language model that is GPT-4, it learns, in quotes, something. In terms of science and art and so on, is there within OpenAI, within like folks like yourself and Ilyas Sutskever and the engineers, a deeper and deeper understanding of what that something is? Or is it still a kind of beautiful, magical mystery?
Well, there's all these different evals that we could talk about. And
what's an eval?
Oh, like how we measure a model as we're training it after we've trained it, and say like, how good is this at some set of tasks?
And also, just on a small tangent, thank you for sort of open sourcing the evaluation process.
Yeah, I think that'll be really helpful. But the one that really matters is, we pour all of this effort and money and time into this thing, and then what it comes out with, like, how useful is that to people? How much delight does that bring people? How much does that help them create a much better world, new science, new products, new services, whatever? And that's the one that matters. And understanding for a particular set of inputs, like how much value and utility to provide to people, I think we are understanding that better. Do we understand everything about why the model does one thing and not one other thing? Certainly not always. But I would say we are pushing back like the fog of war more and more. And we are, it took a lot of understanding to make GPT-4, for example.
But I'm not even sure we can ever fully understand. Like you said, you would understand by asking it questions, essentially. Because it's compressing all of the web, like a huge swath of the web, into a small number of parameters, into one organized black box that is human wisdom. What is that?
Human knowledge, let's say.
Human knowledge. It's a good difference. Is there a difference between knowledge? So there's facts and there's wisdom. And I feel like GPT-4 can be also full of wisdom. What's the leap from facts to wisdom?
A funny thing about the way we're training these models is I suspect too much of the processing power, for lack of a better word, is going into using the model as a database instead of using the model as a reasoning engine.
Yeah.
The thing that's really amazing about this system is that it, for some definition of reasoning, and we could of course quibble about it, and there's plenty for which definitions this wouldn't be accurate, but for some definition, it can do some kind of reasoning. And, maybe like the scholars and the experts and like the armchair quarterbacks on Twitter would say, no, it can't, you're misusing the word, you're, whatever. But I think most people who have used the system would say, okay, it's doing something in this direction. And I think that's remarkable and the thing that's most exciting. And somehow out of ingesting human knowledge, it's coming up with this reasoning capability, however we want to talk about that. Now, in some senses, I think that will be additive to human wisdom. And in some other senses, you can use GPT-4 for all kinds of things and say that it appears that there's no wisdom in here whatsoever.
Yeah, at least in interactions with humans, it seems to possess wisdom, especially when there's a continuous interaction of multiple prompts. So I think what on the ChatGPT site, it says the dialogue format makes it possible for ChatGPT to answer follow-up questions, admit its mistakes, challenge incorrect premises, and reject inappropriate requests. But also, there's a feeling like it's struggling with ideas.
Yeah, it's always tempting to anthropomorphize.
That said, just to jump around, you said the language model that is GPT-4, it learns, in quotes,